Hey folks, this is Jason Lewis, the producer of the From the Shadows podcast. I just want to remind you about our website, FromTheShadowsPodcast.com. We have a Facebook page. We would appreciate it if you like and follow. Also, join our discussion group on Facebook called After the Shadows. We have a Twitter feed. Please follow us on Twitter. It can be found with @podcast_from. Follow us on Instagram at From the Shadows Podcast. We have a YouTube channel. Go to the search bar at YouTube and put From the Shadows Podcast, and please subscribe to that channel. We are also on the Odyssey Radio Network, and we can be found there at odyssey1.com. We're still on the traditional podcatchers that everybody loves to listen to us on. We get a lot of feedback, so please rate the podcast and communicate with whether you're on Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, or Google Podcasts. We're there, and we appreciate it when you leave comments for us. We also have a Patreon page. It can be found at www.patreon.com/From the Shadows. You can receive books, stickers, coffee mugs, and special content just for our Patreon subscribers. Check it out for yourself and see what packages that we have to offer. Well, that's all I have for you right now, folks, and thanks for being a part of the From the Shadows podcast family. So with that being said, let's get this episode started.
So, Howler, we just got done with a long week at the county fair, and showing Izzy showed a horse, not hers. Did pretty well.
Her horse just fell on hard times, right?
Yeah, got a brain disease, and it seems like it's on its way to making a full recovery. She's
really?
Yeah. We had to go and feed her some. She didn't like taking
CBD
medicine
or something.
No, maybe, I don't know.
They got some expensive CBD horse feed. I knew.
Are you kidding me? CBD?
Oh, come on! You didn't know that?
What I know.
Hey,
I'm
my
not
brother
into horse feed or CBD.
runs. Not to get off. I mean, here we go. I mean, we talked before the show about what we're going to talk about, and within seconds we're talking about something different. But my brother runs around in the barrel racing circuit, and some of those girls have this CBD horse food, and what you used to call liniment or whatever. You know what I'm saying? To rub them down, and dude, I think it's pretty expensive. So I thought maybe that's the route you were taking.
Hey, listen, it must be good stuff, like the CBD oil and stuff. Like everybody, some of those guys I know that are in the weightlifting and those former professional wrestlers, they like to use that stuff, and they said it's the best stuff on there. It's just some liniment, right? You just rub it in.
I guess. I'm wanting to say he said it was a 50-pound bag was $250.
Oh, what?
Yeah, well, they put scoops. They put some scoops. They don't obviously feed it. You put like a cup in with 5 pounds of sweet feed or whatever. And
some farm kids
I'm actually
are
texting him right now to ask him how much it is.
Well, some of those farm kids are going to get that CBD feed and figure out how to do something crazy with it, right? And that'll be the next, epidemic.
Feeding a horse is crazy if you're spending $250 a whack at it, unless you're going to eat that horse. And, that was last week's episode. I don't know. You could have some.
Well, speaking of CBD stuff, I told you what's happening with that single, that song I wrote that Montgomery Gentry and Tanya Tucker are doing together. That's coming out here.
No, it did mention CBD, did it?
No, but the name of the song is Higher. Okay,
there you go.
And the producer that went down and got Tanya's vocals from her down in Texas, he is partners in a hemp farm and they do that CBD oil and hemp gummies.
Oh, yeah.
and I guess, and no pun intended, but they're going to roll out together with our song. They're going to roll out a line of Tanya Tucker and Eddie Montgomery hemp gummies and CBD oil in conjunction with the song Higher. Now, the song has nothing to do, well, I metaphorically maybe, with getting higher, but it's not intended for drug use. So it's just kind of like weird how we've, how these things get thrown in together. And, so I don't know. I find it kind of from somebody that's as straight and narrow as me when it comes to that stuff, to now having, a song I wrote is gonna maybe be the theme song for a CBD hemp gummy and oil campaign. It's kind of it's kind of funny, but everything's expensive with the horse. It don't matter. That doesn't surprise me at all. The medicine that we got to give that horse is like in a paste that you got to shoot in their mouth. And of course they don't want to take it. And half of it ends up on the outside of its lips and dropping on the ground or whatever. And it's a couple $100 for a 30-day supply of nothing but looks like a tube of caulking for tile.
Right.
Maybe that's why I don't like it, because it tastes like caulking for tile.
Sure. Well, I don't even know how to begin, because I could go off on a whole maze of things. I don't want to sound like Dave Ramsey here, but like in my brother's particular case, the person he's talking about, she's got a $95,000 pickup and a $120,000 featherlight trailer. So what's a couple $100 for some CBD for the horse? You know what I mean?
That's not even a tank of gas for the truck.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't even know. Yeah. So hey, lucky for the horse, I guess. I don't know.
The horse don't even know. Horse don't even know.
The horse don't even. That's right. The horse don't even know. Yeah.
But anyway, so circle. So here we are. Today was last night was the last day of the fair, and I was kind of talking to you about how we camp at the fair. I guess it's camping. We park our trailer or camper. We got like a 30-foot, recreational vehicle or whatever you want to call it, parked there. And Christy and Izzy, they stay there all week. I come home and sleep in the bed. I can't do it. I can't sleep. I don't like showering in the community showers. I don't, I like to come home, take a shower, get in the bed. Why torture myself for the sake of just sitting on staying in the campground? But and you asked me, you said, well, how often do we use that camper? And we're going to probably use it twice this year. And it just, because it's work. It's a lot of work. I wonder who, when they named it a recreational vehicle, what the recreation is,
I think it's got to be the man that sells it, because he's made so much money off of you. He gets to take off. He gets to go on vacation. Because I'm going to tell you, I've had an arc of RVs, let's call them campers, whatever, and every one of them, I'm refreshing the only one that I ever had that wasn't a lot of work it was a lot of work. I loaded it on my truck. It was one of them slide-in truck campers. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah. That, like, the top
I had a friend of mine
the front was over the top of the cab.
I had a friend of mine that was moving from Minneapolis to Denver and didn't want to take it. Now, you'd think anybody moving to Denver would want one of them, but so he sold it to me dirt cheap. I loaded it on my truck, took it home, unloaded it, and I never moved it again until I give it to a guy. So it wasn't totally a lot of work because I never used it, but it was a hell of a lot of work to get on that particular truck because it was, I think it was 89 or 90 Chevy I put it on. Remember when that Chevy went to what they call the CK style? The whole time we were growing up, the beds are always 4x8, right?
Yeah, that seems right.
Well, on that CK style, starting on those Chevy trucks in 89 and a half tons, 89, 90, 91s, and 1 tons, the bed tapers to the front. So the front of the bed's narrower than the back of the bed, which makes absolutely zero sense to anybody that deals in slide-in truck campers. So it was complete pain to put it on there, and I never used it again. But I've had a few of them. I had a few of them since then, and I had a pop-up that almost killed me on multiple occasions. And
I see those pop-ups. I saw one last night. Christy and I were walking by, and I said, I mean, I go, I don't even know how you'd begin. Like the pop-ups have like that hang out over the edge, right, where you sleep in.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not a little guy. I am not going to be comfortable thinking that something's going to hold me up in the middle of the night as I toss and turn. I can feel it just snap. I mean, once that one side would go, I think the whole trailer might tip right on over with me, and the people on the other end would get tossed around and probably end up down on top of me. That's just what I see when I look at one of those little things.
Well, as a matter of fact, mine had a little problem on the end, so I decided I was going to reinforce it, right?
Okay.
And me being a big guy like you, I decided I was going to put a big old piece of like 3/4 inch plywood on there because the original stuff is like a OSB and it's an odd size. Anyway, it's to make a long story even longer, it made the end so hard to pull out that it just wouldn't take your arms out off every time you slid it out. You know, it was one of those deals. I tell you what, I was flying back from New York or Washington, one of the two, and I was on Craigslist on an airplane. So now the only thing worse for me than going to the grocery store when I'm hungry is being on Craigslist when I'm bored, right? Because I'll find a good deal.
Okay.
So I found this pop-up not too far from my house, and it said it was one of those, like they advertise 1-800-CARS for kids. Donate your unused stuff to some 401 charity or 501 charity. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it wasn't Cars for Kids, but it was something similar. So the thing said, I don't remember. It was fairly new at the time, but it said, Jack's broke, can't move. It's at a church, and I'm not making this up. It was in a church parking lot. It was donated, blah, 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 blah.
Sounds like it was abandoned.
Might have some water damage. Might have some water damage. Jack's broken, can't move it. So I text, how you go up to reply, and I got this gal that says, replies back, says, well, people donated it to the charity, whatever kid-oriented charity this was. They dropped it off behind the church donates part of the parking lot for this charity. You know what I mean? So
okay,
it's been sitting in the church parking lot for 3 years, and we can't move it because the jack's broke. Is essentially what she said. So I said, well, I'm going to be at the air. It gets too long for me to tell them, well, I'm in New York flying back, and I'm going to come by because that shell shocks some people. But in my old line of work, it was nothing to be, in Paris, and then 12, 13 hours later, you're at your kid's ball game. Somebody says, what'd you do at work today? And they can't conceive. I just, flew back from London or Paris or someplace. You know what I mean? They can't. So you just say, I was over to the airport or something. You know what I mean? You end up just selling something. So I tell this guy, hey, I get off work because I knew what time I was going to land. I get off work at the airport at 3. I should be by there at 4:30 or whatever. So I get there, and man, it looked good. It was folded up, but I could tell it was going to have an issue because of the vent, the little pop-up plastic vent. You know how they raise up. it was busted. It was cracked at the top, and I could see the way they jacked the front end up. Some water was probably getting in there at some point. You know what I mean? They didn't know to put a piece of plastic over it or whatever. But her and his padre or some deacon or whatever, some principal, mid-level management or senior management of the church came out there and told me that I was the fifth or sixth person that come by, and nobody was ever able to do anything with it because the jack was jacked up. And when I say jacked up, they had jacked it as high as it would go with the jack, I guess, so the water would run off of it, and then the jack became disabled.
Rusted. Right? It went past the point of no return.
I don't remember why. I don't remember why it wouldn't come down. I don't remember if it was stripped or something, but you could spin that handle, whatever you could do, and the jack couldn't come down. And it was about, it was jacked real high, 3.5 feet off the ground or whatever. So I didn't need a camper whatsoever. Right.
Of course.
But
listen, by the time we get to the end of this episode, I think we're going to establish that nobody really needs a camper.
That's right. But I felt
it was a challenge.
It was a challenge. Yeah.
It was a challenge. Right? Yeah.
Because I haven't lived the best life, Shane. I'm just telling you right now, I have not lived the best life.
If you say so. I think it's
yet the good Lord has given me a set of skills that were better than these God-fearing folks running this church.
Yeah, okay. Mid-level management guy at a church. I think you've got a better skill set.
So essentially, what I did was I backed my truck up there as they kept telling me it's way too high. It's way too high. It's way too high. And I said, I just want to get close to it. And I got close to it, and then I got out, and they're telling me it's way too high. It's way too high. It's way too high. And I remember getting some tools out of this junky red toolbox I had in my rig at that time. And the guy goes, what are you going to do, or how are you going to do this? And I said, well, seeking you shall find, asking you shall receive. I've had a vision on how to do this. So that jack went through the middle of the tongue, and it was in a triangular fashion. It had a bolt at the front and 2 bolts on each side of the back. You know how they look. So I unbolted the jack from the frame of the trailer, and of course, the jack went through the tongue, and the trailer set right down on the truck. You know what I mean? Right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm simplifying the story. When the last bolt that's holding this whole thing together, when that bolt's out, this thing is loose. I was able to set it right down on my trailer, set the safety chains, hook it up. I left the best part. So when he told me I was the 5th or 6th person to look at it, I told him, hey, I hate to do this, and I lowballed him real bad.
Okay.
And the guy, and I think he took my lowball with the caveat that, yeah, but you got to get it out of here today. Like, we'll do that, but we got to get out today. So
can't leave her sit around.
Right. And then that's when I went ahead and, unbolted the jack, set it down, and took it on. And I had that thing for at least 5 years. I had not totally rebuilt. I did a lot of work to it. I took all the canvas off, sent it to a place called Bear Creek Canvas over in Wisconsin. They made me a new canvas for it. I jacked it up. How they flip the axle. I put a set of 4-inch spacer tubes on it, so I jacked it up. So when I took it off road, I wish I had it today. I wish I still had it. It was bad when I got done with it. It was a good rig. Mm-hmm.
And
but it had no air conditioner. Hey, it had no air conditioner. It had no generator. It had no toilets. All the things that you end up that cause you problems in the evolution of RVs, it did not have. Right. So I think that's why I never had much of a problem with it once I got it.
Well, yeah. Yeah, you're talking about all the stuff we haven't had our awning out in 2 years because of the motor. We got basically a brand new camper. Motor doesn't work. So for us to get the awning out, I got to climb up a ladder with a drill with a ratchet on it or whatever, stick it on there and electric drill the awning out.
Okay. I'm surprised you can even do that.
Yeah, they give everything.
Modern stuff.
Yeah. So you got the jack for the camper, and it's hooked to a battery, right? And that's supposed to, if you're not hooked to the car or the truck or whatever, that helps with the jack stand. Well, ours doesn't. Ours won't budge the jack stand. I've paid $200 for a new battery, so I got to be plugged in no matter where we're at, whether it's in the driveway at a camp. I got to be plugged in just to operate that jack stand. So if something happened while I'm pulling my camper, say the tire blew or whatever, that I had to pull over, I would not be able to unhitch it from my vehicle that I was pulling it with, because the jack stand won't go down, because the battery that's sitting 6 inches from it will not charge it enough to put the jack stand down. That's just two things that have gone wrong, that are wrong currently with this camper, that have been in the shop for, and it's like $500 here, $200 there, and next thing you know, you're, man, maybe we should just buy another camper. and then you get then you want a bigger one, a nicer one, and that just brings more trouble, more pain.
That's why I said the recreation is the salesman. That's what gets to recreate, is the salesman.
Absolutely. Now, this takes me back to when I was a kid in the 70s, growing up, and my grandparents had a really nice wooden cabin cruiser up on Lake Erie. And for and there's people don't know what a cabin cruiser, but it's a boat big enough where it's got the cabin where it had a bathroom, a kitchen, a dining room, and slept 5 or 6 people. All right. And half the time we'd go up to the lake, my grandpa would have, being there in the middle of the back, you'd see his back and his rear end as he was down in the engine compartment working on the engine. Okay. So they had this really nice boat. And half the time we couldn't even take it out on the lake because he couldn't get it to start and keep running. But the coup de grace of that so they had this really nice cabin cruiser, and my dad bought, and man, this would be just a foreign concept to a lot of people these days, one of those truck caps.
Yeah, I know what a truck cap is. Oh yeah.
That just sat on the bed of the truck and created like a camper, sort of. It's probably the most simplest version of it's 10 steps down from the one that you back into and set on your truck bed. But I vividly remember we parked the truck in front of my grandparents' cabin cruiser, and because there were so many people staying that weekend up at my grandpa's boat, there weren't enough places for people to sleep. So I slept in the bed of that truck on a sleeping bag in that truck cap in July. It's probably 100. I mean, I might as well have been a baked potato wrapped in tinfoil. And not to mention a sleeping bag on the bed of a it wasn't a smooth bed. It had the little ridges. And maybe that's why my back hurts so bad today from laying in that, But that was camp. That was camping. That was one step up from laying your sleeping bag on the ground.
Well, it's better than the ground. But we were talking about truck caps. I was talking to my wife and daughter the other day. We were. I don't even know how we got on the subject, but I told them a story. I said, my my dad had my dad sold I don't remember if it was one jack or a jack and a jenny or two jacks. It must have been a jack and a jenny or just a straight jack. And he had delivered this jack out to Denver, Colorado. And he had a 77, 76, 77, 78 square body, blue, two-wheel drive, 1-ton dually Chevy. Okay. And he borrowed a truck cap from our veterinary buddy, Mark.
Oh, no.
Yeah, because we didn't even have a truck cap. You know what I mean? Back in them days, I mean, you'd go to town, you'd sit on the wheel wells. You remember how it was, right?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
You went somewhere, you just sat in the back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think my daughter said, "Well, how did four of you sit in a regular cab truck?" She's grappling with the process of a regular cab truck. Because I had to basically teach her what a regular cab truck was, because she kept saying, "Well, those things without the other part of it." And I said, "What do you mean?" Because she's been in a crew cab truck her whole life. She doesn't even know. You know what I mean? She don't even know what a standard cab pickup is. So there's only 3 seatbelts, and I said, "Well, first of all, it doesn't matter if there's any seatbelts because they didn't make us wear them. And second of all, we sat in the back most of the time." And I said, "I'll tell you one, we went to Denver, Colorado in the back of a truck cab." She goes, "What do you mean?" And I said that we had a bumper hitch stock trailer. My old man had this 16, 18 foot. You know what a bumper hitch stock trailer looked like?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Not no fancy one, not like you got that's got a dressing room and all this other stuff in it. I'm talking plain Jane stock trailer. Okay. He borrowed a truck cap.
Well, let's be honest. The dressing room at the front is big deal. That's just taken away from room of being able to put a couple more animals in there.
Okay. Yeah, but this is a plain wide open stock trailer. So he goes and borrows this white truck cap, puts it on with some C clamps, not even good bolts through it or anything else. You know what I mean? Just you know what a C clamp looks like. Put a C clamp on each corner and crank her down. And
Oh my God. Okay.
And he built a little plywood. If that wasn't dangerous enough, he built a little plywood thing over top, so he had some tools down below. You know what I mean? You know how you'd put some tools and stuff down below. And then I don't remember if he gave us an air mattress or if he took one of our mattresses. This is how hillbilly we were. Took a mattress out of the house and carried it out and put it in the bed of the truck.
Hey, so far everything you're saying that's pretty sweet. I mean, that's pretty sweet. That's comfort.
Me and my brother, me and my big brother, we had to ride in this truck cab because my next brother, there's 3 boys at that time. My youngest one hadn't been born yet. Youngest brother hadn't been born yet. So there's 3 of us boys. The baby got to sit in the middle of the mom and dad in his regular cab truck. No air conditioning. The truck doesn't even have air. Right. So, I mean, my old man didn't have air conditioning. My dad bought a brand new truck in 1988 and bought a 6-cylinder, a brand new F-250 with a 6-cylinder 5-speed and no air conditioning. Now, yeah, what do you think of that? I mean, that's how tight he was or is. So it wasn't a matter when I'm telling the story, they're talking about how hot it got. And I said, I don't remember, I said that they would open the front window of this little slider, a little front window of the the camper, and then there was the back window of the cab, and you could reach through, or you know what I mean? You could converse through or whatever. And my daughter said, "You get some air conditioning?" I said, "No, there was no air conditioning." "What do you mean?" I said, "No, there was no air conditioning for them either. They had the wing windows wide open."
Or the floor vents.
Both. Yeah, that thing had both. But the floor was always hot. You know what I'm talking about. The floor would be hot.
Oh, God, yes.
Yes, and can you imagine driving 12 hours? I don't even know. More than that, because back in the speed limit was 55, right? 55 miles an hour all the way across the Interstate 70 for 500 miles.
Yeah, but at least you had your cell phone to keep you occupied, right?
Yeah. You probably didn't even have the radio.
Didn't even have a good radio to probably listen to.
It was AM, I'm sure. I don't even remember. Hey.
I would love to hear some of our fans' worst road trip stories. in like that, because
Hey, and that's just the way it was. I mean, nobody had a real camper back then, did they?
oh
Did you know
no,
anybody that had a real camper?
oh
I knew
heaven,
one person that had a real
no,
camper. My dad's uncle, so it'd be my grandma's big brother. He had an RV. He was an over the road truck. He had a fairly. He was very ended up being a very successful trucking business, and he had a big Class A, and he had a son with cerebral palsy, and he'd come down about every other Sunday at my great grandma's, and he was being an RV. But he was the only person I knew that had an RV until I was in my 20s, probably.
I did not know anybody, because nobody that boat. I mean, because look, you had to have some money to have like a boat at the lake, or I didn't even know anybody had an RV. I mean, because camping was you went out and either slept in the cab, or the only campers were the ones like you're talking about, where you backed into and it slid on the back end of your truck, or slipped in the bed of your truck and hung over the roof of the truck. My grandparents got a motorhome when I was in high school, and it was a small one, and it wasn't that big a one, 23, 24 foot. We thought it was the greatest thing ever, Then they got like a 30 foot. I mean, they got a really big one because they got rid of the boat because they wanted to start taking it to Florida, and it was like, wow, they were the only ones I knew that had campers like that. Hey, camping was going and pitching a tent out on a campsite.
Right.
Which I look, I can't sleep. I slept in a tent one time when I was a kid in the front yard, and I did
Only
it for
one time? Come on.
one time. I did it for about 2 hours, and I said, screw this, I'm going back in my bed. Yeah. I wasn't like a Mr. Outdoors guy. That was no thanks. Why sleep in a tent when your bed's inside? I'd never made it. I'd never made it in the Middle Ages. Showering once a year and sleeping on straw. That wouldn't.
Well, I mean, if you've seen the old farmhouse I grew up on outside, wasn't much different.
I know kids these days, they got it good.
Yeah. I mean, I'm down here at the lake where there's a million campers and boats, and my son works for this boat detailing place, and he's texts me pictures because they do some for the new dealerships too. And he texted me a picture the other day. They were detailing a boat. It was $995,000. I'm sorry, it was $999.99. So it was a penny less than $1 million.
What would you even do with a boat like that on the Lake of the Ozarks?
On Lake of the Ozarks. I tell you what they end up doing: running to the ground, killing some people, getting drunk. Usually, I mean, sky's the limit. I don't know. They just, I don't even know if I had that kind of money. I hate to say that I wouldn't spend it on a boat, but
probably just a fishing boat. What more do you need, right?
Well, yeah, I guess. Well, first of all, the lake's too. I mean, right now it's so bad that I mean, you're not going to get out there. It's so rough. You're not going to go fishing.
The lake's rough out there, huh?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Are you shitting me? People with $1 million boats are driving around 80 miles an hour because there's no nighttime speed limit or daytime speed limit. So.
Jeez.
Yeah. But it's safer in the lake. They had a big biker gun battle. I'm not to switch topics here. I know I'm all over the place tonight because I'm jacking. I bought my son a new phone, so I've got a bunch of iPhone issues. So if I seem occupied, it's because my computer here keeps pinging me to do all this phone stuff. Because I guess it's within so many feet, it's wanting me to add my Apple Watch and I don't have an Apple Watch. You can only tell this computer so many times that's not me, and it still don't believe you. But no, if you what?
Oh, the beauty of technology. Is that the same technology we use at the post office?
Ozark shootout. Do what?
That's the same technology we use at the post office.
Yeah, so that if you Google up Lake Ozark biker shootout this week or last 2 weeks, might be 2 weeks now ago, they had a shootout down here at Casablanca. They got this beautiful Humphrey Bogart themed restaurant called Casablanca. Makes you think you're in Morocco or something. And what?
Great movie, by the way.
And there was members of 3 different biker gangs, and I'm not going to mention who they are because I don't know what our listeners, what gangs our listeners are affiliated with, and I don't want to think that we're a non-denominational program,
Yes.
so listeners can belong to any biker gang they want.
Amen.
But apparently, a scuffle ensued. It's on video. People around were videoing things. And a guy started hitting another guy with a motorcycle helmet, which puzzled me where he got it because most of these bikers don't wear helmets. So I don't know if he took somebody else's helmet. So this guy, I'm going to call him the victim because he ultimately perished in this. He pulled a gun, and one of his companions, there's a discrepancy on whether he just grabbed it and pulled it out. So the victim actually pulled his gun, and the suspect went ahead and shot him. He had a gun too, but it was concealed, I guess. So when the victim pulled his gun out, this guy went straight to blast mode. You know what I mean? I don't know if because 2 rival guys had guns, but neither of them shot at first, because I think they were probably in presentation mode, or they were letting in law enforcement be your professional presence. I think they were wanting to say, flex a little bit. I got a gun, back off. Does that make sense? We both got guns, back off. They didn't expect the shooter to go full blown John Wayne on them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And over 20 shots were fired between the 3 of them. And
only 1 guy died.
4 of them were wounded, and 1 of them was perished. The guy that started it all got killed, which, depending on how liberal you are, sometimes are conservative. So that kind of sounds like poetic justice to me, but then sometimes maybe not. But what I find interesting is the suspect, the shooter, because they got it all on video. The shooter was wounded right off of the bat. Now, he didn't shoot he shot first, but the victim pulled his gun out but didn't shoot. The shooter shot him, so then I guess the victim figured if we're shooting, let's shoot, and shot back at him. He was wounded and went down, but where they really got him jammed up is somewhere in the gun battle he reloaded and kept shooting them. Shooting people out of the rival gang. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So his self-defense kind of went out with bullet number 10 or 12. But when he started shooting him,
you don't get to reload. You don't get to reload.
Dude that had the gun. Hold on, the second dude, and I might be confusing things. So it's hard for me because I got to laughing so hard reading. These junior reporters they send out here, these college, I don't want to say flunkies, but they got these like college age girls down here trying to figure out what's going on. And they get told one story from witnesses, and they get told another story from the cops, and they kind of try to figure out their own version of the story to sell news. Does that make sense? So it's really hard to tell, but apparently the second guy, the guy that flashed his gun but never shot,
yes,
he was arrested too because he was a convicted felon. He's in possession of a handgun. He ain't supposed to have a gun. But apparently in his defense, he was trying to defend himself with the police by saying it's I couldn't shoot. It's unloaded because I knew I wasn't supposed to have it. So I thought if I had an unloaded gun, I wouldn't get in trouble with it. So here he flashes this guy and gets shot. The dude that shot him didn't know it was unloaded. You know what I mean?
Well, I think we've probably said it before, but that kind of thinking probably got him in trouble to where he wasn't allowed to have a gun in the first place.
Well, but you know what's funny? Not funny, but the shooter belongs to a little biker club. They got a little clubhouse up here, not too far from where I reside and where I'm, domiciled at. And it burnt down. It caught fire. It got firebombed a few days after this.
Oh boy. Okay.
And it's all over the paper. It was a retaliation deal. They were supposed to have bike night this Saturday night down here, and it got canceled because the police chief said we're canceling bike night because of this feud, this biker gang feud. Okay. Now, somebody in my family said, well, what's to keep the bikers from just showing up? And I said, nothing. The only thing he did was just, kept the honest folks away. So the rival club got burnt down, and they had the funeral today, and there was over 3,000 bikers out there. So the only thing we had more than bikers was cops. There was cops everywhere.
Well, you know what? That's a little more excitement than the week at the fair. I guess I could say that. The Lake of the Ozarks. Not for the weak of heart.
That's right. It is Lake of the Ozarks. I'm telling me and my brother talking yesterday about the rival club burning down. My brother does a lot of things. One of the caps he wears sometimes, he does fire claims for an insurance outfit. You know what he said? Because they had the fire marshal, had the ATF, they had all these people out, this big fire investigation looking at the opposite gang. And my brother says, you know what? I think they burnt their own club down knowing that them other guys that look at it would be the suspect.
Ooh, there you go.
I said, really? And he goes, oh, yeah, think about it. They got this nice big palatial clubhouse. Somebody's got it insured. Why wouldn't you? You go home and burn it down. They immediately look at the other people. You don't even have to make it look like an accident. You really burn it down and say, they did it.
Just when I thought that guy's way of thinking is what got him in trouble. Now you're of course, this way of thinking can also get you arrested for an arson and insurance fraud. So, just add that to the list.
Yeah. Well, the one guy's got an alibi because he was in jail when it burnt down, right? So, I don't know, man. It's just it's the world we're living in now. This place is just falling apart, isn't it?
I don't think it's any different than it was 50 years ago, to be quite honest.
No.
It's just we didn't have Twitter 50 years ago.
Yeah, could be. Could be.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.